One lady said to me recently, it makes me feel young. When I'm in the class listening to those songs and dancing away, I feel
Mm.
young. And I
Mm.
love that feeling. So yeah, you're not
Yeah,
your age,
yeah,
you
yeah.
are your energy. This journey through menopause is going to have a lot of plot twists, but see it as an encore. It's not a curtain call. The curtain's not coming down. Get the right soundtrack and navigate it that way.
Whether you're dealing with menopause-related symptoms or looking to improve your overall health, this podcast has something for everyone. Let's embark on this journey together to thrive through menopause and beyond. Welcome to Moving Through Menopause. I'm Phillipa, and with me this morning chatting is Danella Mercati. And we are talking, but guess what? We're not just talking today. We're going to be moving as well, literally moving through menopause. Danella is the founder of Chi Chi Fit, and this is a musical theatre inspired workout program. And I am so excited to have this conversation, Danella. So we are going to talk and actually get moving this morning. Welcome to the podcast. It's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you know what? We're going to talk a little bit about the why. The why should we be moving when we're menopausal and actually long before menopause, in actual fact. But, movement can be something that women find difficult to incorporate into their days. We've got lots of demands on our time, and it's a busy life that we live. And yet, this is so important. There's so many health benefits to be gained from regular activity. We'll just call it that because, it's for you to choose and decide which of these modalities that you gravitate towards. So, tell me a bit more about what you're getting up to in your musical theatre classes.
Yeah, well, exactly as you said. I mean, it's moving through menopause. It's actually moving through life. In fact, with the Wicked movie and all of those things that are coming up, there's a song straight away that's come into my head, Dancing Through Life. And I feel like dancing through life or even moving through life, it's not just through menopause. It's always, and we know it's the grounding for your immune health and absolutely everything. But more crucially, through menopause, I think what happens, and I speak from absolute direct experience of the joys of perimenopause myself, is that your instinct when you've got aches and pains and weird things are going on, or you're feeling fatigued and tired, is to not do the exercise, which is kind of obvious. You just don't feel like it. And you're being supposedly kind to your body, listening to it, saying it just wants to rest, it just wants to hibernate, it just wants to snuggle on a sofa, it just wants to get a big cup of tea and a few biscuits. I totally get that. But what's really fascinating with what I do, which is essentially dance fitness to songs from shows, Broadway style dance fitness, is the experience and all my learning is purely because I'm living it. And I go to classes where I have a room full of people, a room full of mostly fabulous women, similar age to myself, a little bit younger and perhaps a little bit older. So some not quite there, and some they're done. They're reinvented now, and they're in that next stage, and it's fabulous. And I want to talk a lot more about that. But I don't always feel like standing up in front of 30 people with all the glitter and glam that my class requires in terms of the kind of showbiz energy that I bring to it to make everybody feel like the star of a show. I don't always feel that. In fact, there's days when I feel just like any person who doesn't do my job. I feel perimenopausal and I want to cuddle up and not see anyone. Literally, I actually want to hide from the world. But I have no choice. It's my job to get up and do what I do. And I've realized just how grateful and how lucky I am, how lucky we are that we can't make excuses, because it's not easy. And I really want people to know this. It's not easy to not make the excuse. However, the benefits of showing up and doing that exercise, and in my case, the next level up for me that is so powerful is exercise to music you love. And for me, it's obviously musical theatre and show tunes. it puts your mind in a completely different place. And obviously that release of endorphins and all those things that come with moving your body just elevate you to a place that you would have never got to if you'd made that excuse. And so while I've learned that the reason I am not having such a dreadful time as perhaps others are in this phase is because I can't make the excuses. And believe me, I would. In fact, in one of my classes last week, I said to my ladies, it was a dark, cold night and damp. It was probably drizzling as well. And the class was sold out. I was so expecting a quiet week. It's winter. We'll start hibernating a little bit. It was sold out with a wait list. And I actually said to my class, hey, well done. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure if I wasn't teaching the class, I would have come tonight. And I genuinely mean that. There's days where it's not easy for me, but all of us collectively know how amazing we are going to feel in an hour's time. And so I think for me, it's really understanding that it's a non-negotiable. It really is a non-negotiable. And I'm a big believer in try everything till you find your thing. Because when you find your thing, whatever that is, whether it's yoga or Pilates or dancing or running or the gym, whatever that thing is, something you really enjoy that you can commit to. Because again, it really is consistency. A bit like with your fitness plan, you can't just decide in December, for example, when it's got cold and dark and you're running up to Christmas and life's got busy, that you're going to just stop exercising for a month that's not, you just can't. You have to find something that's just a habit in your life. It's in your diary, it's scheduled, it doesn't change. Just like if you've got a meeting at work and a friend says, can you come and meet me for a coffee? You wouldn't go, oh yeah, I'll just cancel that. You're like, well, no, I've got a meeting at work and then I could meet you. Exercise needs to be the same, but it's not going to be that if it's not joyful. And so I think for me, what I've found in Chi Chi Fit, in musical theatre fitness, is something that even though we dance and sweat, and I'm probably the fittest I've ever been in my life doing these dance fitness workouts, really it's where it takes my mind and where it puts my mindset that I think has been the most powerful. Because I feel like if you can be happy, if you can find happy moments in your day, in your week, in your month, but certainly in your exercise, every other decision that's good, certainly in this period of menopause, is easier to make when you're in a really good, strong frame of mind. But when you're feeling down and tired and your joints ache and you had a dreadful night's sleep the night before and you've done no exercise, so you've released none of those happy endorphins, and perhaps you haven't put any music on today, so your mindset hasn't shifted at all, it's really hard to pick the right foods to eat because you reach for comforts. It's really hard to discipline yourself scrolling on that phone because you're reaching for dopamine hits and moments of excitement. So yeah, it all comes down to that, I feel. Joyfulness in your movement.
Yeah, bringing joy to movement. I do. I mean, I love it, like just anyway. But for people who struggle with motivating themselves to get out and do this stuff, and there's lots of barriers in the way, and especially in perimenopause, I experienced really heavy bleeding, say for instance. And that can be something that is really undesirable when you're thinking about movement exercise. And then of course we've got the other problems that women can experience, pelvic floor dysfunction, that proves a real barrier for people exploring movement and feeling fearful. And so this then becomes this vicious cycle of avoiding, which ultimately, the less fit you are, the worse all these things are going to be.
And I do think as well, those particular symptoms, you don't want to be around people. You want to be somewhere a little bit private in case you need to nip off and deal with things and pop to the toilet, whatever you need to do. And actually, interesting enough, one of my ladies who is a little bit ahead than me, so I hadn't quite pieced things together. I mean, it's really quite a wonderful thing to be going through it, to understand it in its different dynamics. Anyway, this lovely lady who'd been coming to my classes week in, week out for probably 3 solid years. She was like my absolute, she was just always there. She loved it with a passion. She'd found something that she looked forward to. So it was easy to commit to. And then all of a sudden, she just stopped coming. And immediately,
Oh,
as an instructor, you don't want to pry into people's lives and you don't want to sort of
no,
put
no.
any pressure on them. But there was a quiet concern thinking, I wonder what's happened. So I left it 2 or 3 weeks thinking maybe she's just gone on holiday and she forgot to tell me. I left it a further 2 or 3 weeks and then I did get concerned. And then all of a sudden I saw that she'd subscribed to Chi Chi Fit on demand. So my classes at home. I hadn't got in touch with her yet. And I thought, oh, okay, she still wants to do it, but she doesn't want to come to the classes. Fine, I'll leave it at that. I won't pry, what, each to their own. Anyway, a number of weeks after that, she suddenly did show up in a live class again. And I was so thrilled to see her, as you do. You get really close to all the people you teach, you get to know them. And I had a little chat with her and said, how's everything been? And she said, literally, and I had no idea. She said, I got really hit hard with the perimenopause. I was really struggling. I was struggling to have the confidence to be around people. So then suddenly I was fearful of being in a class full of people who had all sorts of other symptoms. She didn't elaborate, but I'm guessing a little bit of the ones you've mentioned. And I started getting fearful of stepping into the room with other people. But I missed it. And I missed moving, which was that's a really encouraging thing, that when somebody has made it a habit, you do miss it. It like, I'm addicted to it. You're addicted to it. It does. For those people listening who haven't really got moving yet, it becomes, once you get to a stage where your body is comfortable, you found that thing and it's become a habit and a routine, it also becomes an addiction, like a full-on addiction. Anyway, we had a long chat about all the symptoms she'd been experiencing. And she was very apologetic, which she didn't need to be, but she just felt more comfortable moving at home on her own at times in the day or week that really suited her. And I think that's another really important thing to remember, that now with so much online, the thing you love, you can probably do outside of the studio as well with that same person, with your instructor who you love, doing the moves that your body's familiar with that feel right for you. And so to factor that in, that it doesn't need to stop, but it's totally understandable that there are times in your month, in your year, if you're struggling, that you need to adapt it to work for you, but just don't stop.
We are fortunate in this era of technology that we can take these things to the comfort of our own homes. And, I have people who nip off to the door to get parcels and, all sorts. And they love the flexibility that offers. So, offering interventions that meet different people's different needs at different times in their lives is wonderful, that we can reach people with that. I want to come back to this mood piece and the music element, because although the research isn't at the tip of my tongue, I know that rhythm is a really important, fundamental thing for us as humans. The fact that we'll fall into rhythm when we walk alongside somebody is in our nature. And so the opportunity to, like you say, combine movement with this rhythmical element. And honestly, I've never listened to a snow tune.
Show tune.
That's it.
Those are
That isn't. I mean, there are some that are a bit sad, but all in all, they're designed to be emotive and uplifting, and and so
empowering. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, the power of music, I really don't think people talk about enough and tap into enough for their well-being. And obviously musical theatre is it has another dimension because it's storytelling. It's singing and sharing a story. And whilst you don't need to know that story in that moment that you're listening to the song, you can relate it to so many things. And in fact, often I will play a song and I'll say, if you know the song in context of the show, you might think it's a bit depressing. However, I want you to just listen to the lyrics now and make them your own, because actually they're really powerful and they're really empowering. And now I will often stand up at the start of a class, which is essentially a fitness workout. They've come to get fit. But the first thing I say to them, and I did this on my Fridays class, here's an example, very recently. I started the class and I went, right, guys, I know we're at a time of year where everyone's getting tired. There's a lot of pressures on for all sorts of planning and prepping, and all sorts is going on. That we've got very little daylight. Days are so super short. So I've put together a playlist. It was totally about the songs. I wasn't even thinking about, well, I obviously had considered the routines and the journey I was going to take them on, but there's a lot of different songs in each genre of exercise that I could use. And I specifically put together a playlist to make them feel excited. I said, I just want you to leave this class feeling so excited about life. So if you're feeling a little bit of the burdens, you will leave this class feeling excited, and it will be because of the music I'm going to play into your brains. We started the class with one of my favorite songs from a musical movie that's been a stage show, Finding Neverland, which, during sort of festive season is nice and appropriate too. But the very first few bars of music are exciting. You just suddenly get, and then the lyrics are all about anticipation in the air, something just beyond compare to any other night like this. So at the end of one song, you've suddenly got excited by the thing you don't know you're excited by. And then I took them into La La Land, actually, to Another Day of Sun, because like literally zero sun going on at the moment. And I try and bring some sunshine and brightness into the room, but it's essentially through the songs, the melody, the lyrics. And by the end of our warm-up, which ends with always Fabulous Baby from the musical Sister Act, and the lyrics are literally just, look at me, can't you see I'm fabulous, baby? Check me out, ain't no doubt that where this girl is bound. By the time you have filled yourself up with those lyrics, and that's not even the routines, just the lyrics, you feel very differently about yourself and about your life in that moment. And it's powering yourself up with song. And I see right in front of me the difference that makes. And I have ladies saying to me, my family love it when I come out on a Monday night and do my class, because whatever mood I leave in, they know I'll have been chichified by the end of the evening. And I'll just come home a happier mum who just says yes to anything and everything. And you think that's because nothing's particularly changed except the way they feel about themselves or their life. And it changes their behavior. I mean, it's so powerful. And, my children, I've got teenagers who this summer just gone were taking GCSEs and A-levels at the same time. So that was fun and games in my household. Luckily, we breezed through it with song and with music. And first thing in the morning, when everyone wakes up and it's a bit, you're tired and you've got these big exams ahead of you, I was very careful to consider the soundtrack they needed to their exam period. It's literally the soundtrack of life, and every period of life requires a different one. And there's very definitely a menopausal soundtrack that is valuable. I wouldn't give it to you. I could make suggestions, but everyone could find their own if they realize that listening to music that makes them feel great and is uplifting and empowering. So I have the soundtrack to the summer of school exams. And
if I can interrupt you there, you're sounding a lot like a Mary Poppins kind of mommy there,
Practically perfect. Is that what you're trying to say? But literally, no, and actually, I'm probably as far from a Mary Poppins mum as there comes, but I am, if it came to a bag full of music, my bag would be a Mary Poppins bag that is literally a prescription. In fact, I hadn't even thought about this, but I guess my prescription, I've had people say that, and like any form of really great exercise, but obviously I can only relate it to my niche because that's how I've heard it, that Chi Fit should be given out on the NHS.
Yeah.
And whilst I think it's very true, I think all forms of exercise need to be delivered more as the answer to so many ailments and problems and conditions. I actually think songs need to be prescribed. And I recently discovered, it's been there a while, I believe, the Poetry Pharmacy on Oxford Street, where you go in and there's these little vials, and in it are little pills, and you pull them apart, and there's miniature poems inside them, and they're poetry prescriptions for different things like confidence, motherhood, sadness, sorrow, all sorts. They're poems that will help you if you read those words. And I feel like I could prescribe songs from shows. I could prescribe Broadway show tunes to help people feel better. And the one song I urge everyone to listen to, it was the song of the exam summer. It's the song I listen to when I'm scared. In fact, there's two that I listen to when I'm scared or I'm nervous about an event I'm doing, and I do lead things that take me out of my comfort zone regularly. And when you're perimenopausal, that can even be harder because you really need to trick your brain at that point in time to manage it. The song I listen to that 100% of the time does its due is This Is the Moment, from a lesser known musical, Jekyll and Hyde. Listen to it. Go to Alexa, go to Spotify and find This Is the Moment, and you'll see what I mean. And that was our 7 o'clock in the morning track on school days before an exam, because at the end of it, you're just like, this is my moment to shine. When all I've lived for becomes mine. And you literally, at the end of it, you feel like, I've just got this. And honestly, it's that powerful. So, yeah.
Well, I totally agree. And I love the idea of prescribing show tunes in the pharmacy. I love the idea of that. You know, I can see a room with lots of headphone sets and people go in and stick the headphones on, you know. Yeah.
And pick the song
Well,
that they need in that moment. There's another warm-up routine that I do to a song called Zaz from The Prom. And the word Zaz, it's actually, The Prom has been turned into a film actually with Meryl Streep singing this. So it's a musical film as well as a stage musical. But yeah, Meryl Streep and James Corden, in fact, it's quite a cast. But this song Zaz, it's all about give it some Zaz. If your courage disappears and you are filled with dread and worry, give it some Zaz. Now, I've obviously, in the form of dance fitness, turned Zaz into jazz hands. All that, you know, seeing your name in lights. And it is just about tricking your brain, going, I'm terrified, I'm scared, but I need to disguise that in this moment because it's not going to help me. So you give it some Zaz, and somehow you've sprinkled it with a little bit of glitter and glam that's just, you know, given it a different edge.
well, you know what? I would love if you would give us an experience of Chi Chi Fit. Could we do that?
We absolutely could. And actually, the one thing I will say, because sometimes people think of dance fitness there are so many forms of dance fitness. There's obviously Zumba that people are so familiar with, absolutely brilliant, you know, party feel. So there's the fun of that. It makes you want to go. There's Chi Chi Fit, which is Broadway style dance fitness. But dance fitness isn't just about bopping about. And in my case, with jazz hands, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. Our aim is to give you a really effective, full body workout, but in the hope that it slightly feels like exercise in disguise for those people who don't willingly race out the door to exercise. So, I mean, I'm holding my resistance band. Now, these form a huge part of a Chi Chi Fit class because, as you know, and I know, and if you don't know, muscle mass is vital as we age because it's naturally depleting. And certainly through menopause and perimenopause, when our hormones are doing all sorts of things that speed up the process, keeping strong really matters. So in the middle of every Chi Chi Fit class, once we've done our warming up and we've got our heart rates up through various songs that increase in intensity, and we're feeling really warm, sweaty and glowy, we pull out the bands. They will either go around our wrists for an upper body strength workout, shoulders, posture, all of those things that it's really vital to have strength in your upper body for. Or we pop them around our ankles or knees for a lower body workout. Or if I'm feeling a certain way, we do a routine with both hands and then legs, not at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But we work both parts. But that always happens in the middle of class. But again, the choreography and bringing this back to the rhythm that you said. So there's always a beat that's keeping us going, because that sometimes does keep you going. Pick a great show tune to do these strength workouts to. And somehow, and these are, these look like nothing. Don't these look like nothing? They
I
are
know.
so powerful. By golly, I mostly have a room full of smiles, but I'm not going to lie. When we're starting to come towards the end of a band routine, the smile has got like a grimace. They really work magic in a way that I feel is quite gentle on your body, less damaging. So when your body has aches and pains that are unusual and that flare up one day and disappear the next, I find bands a really, really effective way of working through your strength and keeping yourself strong. And there are varying levels of resistance. You can go super, super light if it's a day where you feel you can actually do the routines without a band, to be honest. But throw a show tune to it, and suddenly your body's copying me and doing the work that's really challenging, but your brain is listening to Julie Andrews singing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and all of a sudden you are totally distracted, but you're doing the hard work, which is also, I think, why at the end of a routine we're always a bit surprised how exhausted. There's this audible at the end, and you go, oh yeah, that was really hard work. But the music was distracting us. The music was storytelling. The music was taking us. I use Hamilton. I use quite a lot of songs from Hamilton because it's quite a rappy musical that isn't easy to dance to, but it's got a great beat for, some of these kind of more strength-based work exercises.
Yeah, thank you. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. Because I'm going to join in,
Right, and you've got a band, I'm guessing. And for those of you watching or listening at home, if you don't have a band, don't worry. Join in anyway if you'd like, just to get a feel for it. We're going to have a little sing-song on this particular one, just because you don't have to sing in my classes, although we do have singers. We have some of the Amdram crowd who it's a perfect excuse to belt at the top of their voices. The music's loud. You mostly can't hear them, so it's a really freeing way of losing your inhibitions and just having a blast. But for now, you're going to have to tolerate my voice just for the simplicity
of this. It's a lovely voice.
So grab your bands if you've got one. Start with your feet hip width, shoulder width apart, and just very slightly soften those knees to take out any sort of extra stretch down the back of them, and just tuck that tailbone under, okay? So there's no pressure on the lower back. Then popping the band round your wrists. Okay, so your knees should be very slightly soft, your tailbone tucked under, your neck and shoulders beautifully relaxed, because all the work will be happening below the neck, okay? So it's really crucial that you don't feel any strain in that neck. If you do, drop the band or pick up a lighter resistance if that's an option. So before we do anything, before we bring in song, I just want you to feel what it feels like to pull the band apart. Okay, so your arms are relaxed, but the work's in the top of those arms, pulling it wide. Okay, we've got 3, 2, 1. Stop there and bend your elbows. Again, 3, 2, 1. Bend your elbows. 3, 2. I'm just going to show from the side. 3, 2, 1. Bend your elbows. Okay, so I'm keeping those elbows beautifully tucked in when I bend them. Right, now I'm going to put a little bit of a song to it. You're going to have to imagine the opening and the introduction. Do, 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 do. Let's go. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it is something quite precocious, if you say it loud enough, you'll almost sound precocious. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Arms to the front. Soften that neck. Keep everything relaxed. And just pulse. 2, 3, 4. We've got little long little lie, little lie, little long little lie,
Key change.
long lie, pulling back. Pull wide, squeeze those shoulder blades. Again, 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Stop there. Make sure everything's relaxed. Make sure those knees are still slightly soft and the tailbone's under, and box those arms. And up and out. Drop those arms. Sorry, I can't direct at the same time. I was trying to sing on from a show. So that probably gives you an idea of how we bring a musical to life. Obviously, with the actual original show tune, it's much more exciting and dynamic. But yeah, you've probably never done a band routine to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Never entered my mind, but funnily enough, we were using the loop bands in my classes last week. I love that thing. It's such a versatile piece of equipment. Rubber band, you know, there's nothing I can't do with a rubber band given the opportunity. So, but yeah, that's really wonderful, and I really wanted to sing along, but I know I would be rubbish next to you.
Oh no, and also, I mean, you know, I trained in musical theatre, and I think I'm fairly certain in fact, I know the reason I never made it onto that West End stage is because my singing wasn't strong enough. To be in musical theatre, your voice has to be your best asset, really. You can't hold a show if you don't have a glorious voice. And so for me, it's great that my voice is good enough for a Chi-Chi Fit class, but more importantly, when the music's playing loud and you can't hear any of the quality, it's just fun to sing along if you want. Yeah. And it's lovely to look out at a room full of people where you can see them sort of mouthing the words, whether it's coming out loud or whether it's silently there. It's just another dimension.
It is, and that's a very upbeat, mood elevating kind of tune, isn't it? It's I was smiling my head off then. You couldn't help but be happy when you hear that music and then putting the movements together. I mean, we've been doing this for centuries, haven't we? Dancing and vocalizing. And it is in our DNA that we should be doing these kinds of things. Movement, you know, for women is so pivotal in our experience of life, but not just in the moment when we're having a wonderful time, but for hours and even days afterwards, and then you can have that recollection of, you know, it comes into your mind at a moment when you maybe need it, that, oh, actually, you know, what fun we had together, you know, doing this.
But also, I'd encourage people to play more music at home when they're preparing their dinner, when they're chopping vegetables, because you will find that the minute music is playing, your body just starts bouncing and your feet just start tapping and things just start wiggling and moving. If you're playing music you want to hear, and I'm well aware that not everyone wants to be blasting out a show tune day in, day out. I do. I think it's a really great thing to do. So if you're lost for a choice of music or you're not sure what sort of music you love, play a show tune. Wicked is a good one, actually. Wicked's a really good one.
I went to see Wicked the other week at the cinema, and I was absolutely enthralled with that.
But also, there's so many lyrics in there that they are part of my soundtrack through menopause, and certainly lyrics that I sort of infuse into my classes to fill them up. One lyric is, and I feel like this is so menopausal, I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so. We do feel like that there is, I mean, we're very fortunate that there's so much talk on menopause now, but we also, I'm very aware, are bombarded with the negative and the struggles and the woes and the difficulty of getting through this phase of life. And I feel like that lyric, I'm through accepting limits because someone says they're so, That's where I'm trying to flip the conversation, because there are no limits. In fact, later on in a different song, you've got unlimited, my
Oh,
future is unlimited. I really can't sing that one, but it's so powerful that you feel like, which is, I really believe, what we should be feeling as we go through this transitional phase where we're going to unveil a newer, glossier, more sparkly version of ourselves, that we are unlimited. And I do feel like that is the talk that I feel we need more. I think it's not great. I have a 16-year-old daughter, to constantly listening to how terrible this phase is. And like you and I are saying, it can be made better by doing certain things, like moving more, listening to great music, and moving your body to music, combine it all. But, and it does come with its challenges, but I do feel like, oh, another one from Wicked. Sorry, I just glanced down at lyrics. Another one from Wicked. As someone told me lately, everyone deserves a chance to fly. So, yeah, I just feel like, listen to, basically stick on Defying Gravity, and we defy menopause in doing so. But fill yourself up with some of those lyrics, because they are really empowering.
Yeah,
And
I think you're so right that and this is why really today in this episode I wanted for us to do some modeling the behaviors that we advocate for, because it's so important that it isn't just a conversation about how horrible things are, but all the amazing things that A, can be free, and B, life enhancing, that we can do for ourselves to make this experience of the menopause transition transformational, really, and so yeah, defying gravity. And I need a good bra for that these days, but yeah,
well, that's another thing. My classes are very energetic, and mostly women, but even the few men that join have become very tolerant of certain moves. You just need to grab your boobs, particularly if they're feeling particularly sensitive this month, and just run on the spot, holding them tight. It's absolutely fine. It's all women. And actually, what's really lovely for me, and you probably experienced this too, is there are women at very different stages of life in all my classes, and I learn from them. And the ones who are ahead of me, and who I feel like are, transitioning into this amazing place, that they got through all of this. They defied gravity. They're there now. And there's a lease of life and sparkle in them that's like really exciting. I don't fear that. I think it's exciting. And
yeah.
another one of my kind of slogan catch lines is, we are not our age, we are our energy. And I really believe that. And I feel like there's so much focus on trying to not age visibly. Now, you do. And the more lines you have through, all your smiles and laughter, that's not aging. Aging is when you've got slow and your movement is a bit stiff. And when you go to turn, you turn your whole upper body because there's no flexibility in your neck. That's aging. If you can retain energy in your body, it's so youthful. So yeah, you're not your age, you are your energy. So fuel yourself to be energized, to do the things that essentially make you younger, or certainly feel younger. That's another thing, actually. I asked the question of what is it? Is it the musical show tunes that make you want to come back week in, week out for these classes? I just assumed that was going to be and whilst they all love the music and they totally understand this crazy journey I'm taking them on, and I'm sort of fueling them with show tunes, one lady said to me recently, it makes me feel young. When I'm in the class listening to those songs and dancing away, I feel young. And I love that feeling.
Yeah.
And I didn't dare say it at the time, but I kind of wish I had. I was like, you look young too, because you're energized, and energy is youthful. So
it's youthful and it's so very attractive, isn't it? Yeah. So, I would like, if you wouldn't mind, for you to get a bit more. I'm assuming this might be a more sensual sort of number. in our jazz. What's it called again? I forgot.
All That Jazz from Chicago. Now, for those people who don't know the musical Chicago, which I think probably most of you might not have seen the show, but you'll know the songs. Everybody knows All That Jazz and Razzle Dazzle, Cell Block Tango. And recently there's been a trending audio on social media, which is They Both Reached for the Gun. What I love about this show is, one, it is quite sensual, and there's a kind of sexiness that you sort of tap into, which I think is really, really healthy when you're feeling achy, tired, fatigued, and all those things that come with menopause. Trying to find moments to feel sexy and vampy is really, really, really healthy. Chicago is the musical for that. And it's about, well, the introduction to Chicago is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to a story of murder, greed, corruption, adultery, all those things, you know, that are really bad for you. And here are the 6 merry murderesses of the Cook County Jail. And it's 6 women who've essentially murdered their boyfriends or husband, but they're obviously not guilty. And it's just a really empowering number that, you know, Chi Chi numbers aren't all about being sexy and sassy. A lot of them are just really fun, high energy, to musicals like Hairspray and so shows that, you know, Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat is full of
I love that.
fabulously, great songs that people know and love. A lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber. But yeah, Chicago. So if you fancy having a little moment, again, you're going to have to tolerate my singing voice. And I'll just give you a feeling. This is a feeling of how a routine to a show tune in Chi Chi Fit makes you feel. So if you want to have a little rendition of All That Jazz, let's tap through the verses. Okay, so back into your performing space. Okay, so feet slightly wider than shoulder width. Really plant those feet down. Hands alive. Strong arms in front of your thighs. Now, Chicago was choreographed by Bob Fosse, a very, very famous choreographer. And it's all a lot of hand movements, and it's these actions, which also are very, very good, by the way, for carpal tunnel, keeping those wrists active and all those nerve endings. But it's very much about these hands that have to be very alive. So I want your palms and fingers really spread. Drop your weight very slightly forward, and I just want you to rock your hips side to side. So just drop your body weight slightly forward. You'll find that your hips rock much more readily. When you're upright, it's a bit stiff. When you slightly lower your body, they swing beautifully side to side. Okay? You ready to follow me? We've got, come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? Drop right, drop left, roll your shoulders and all that jazz. Then just turn that right knee, stay low. That's perfect. Hand on thigh, other hand on your hip, and then just open that shoulder. And just go up and down. You'll work those thighs. We've got, I'm gonna rouge my knees and roll my stockings down. Stop there and all that jazz. Boom, hands on your hip bones, soften those knees, and we're just gonna be rotating through the hips. Again, your knees need to be soft, because otherwise you'll get no movability. We're going to travel to your right with step together, pushing that hip, and step together, get low in those knees. Okay, so it's about trying to push through that hip and rotate those hips. Now, plant your wrists on your hip bones, and this is the action we're going to be doing. But we're going to be stepping with it again, the same as we just did. Hip and hip and hip and hip. Other way. Hip and hip. Soften those knees and hip. And then our famous move, and all full extension. And then fling your arms around you. That. Bend and thrust those hips. And then just rotate all the way around. Okay, from the top with the song. Weight forward, rocking those hips. We've got, come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? Drop right and left, roll, and all that jazz. I'm gonna rouge my knees and roll my stockings down. Boom, boom, stop. and all that jazz. Start the car, I know a whoopee spot. Other way, the gin is cold, but the piano's hot. Twirl, twirl, other way, twirl, final move, and all, boom, that, boom, jazz. There we go, a little
Oh
taste
my
of what
gosh.
that's all about.
I'd love more of that, I have to say. Clearly, there's room for improvement, but you don't care, do you?
Yeah, but my thing as well is it's not about being a good dancer. And
I
actually, the one
know.
thing I really steer clear of in my classes is any rooms with mirrors. If there are mirrors in
Oh,
the
okay.
studio, we turn our back to them because in our mind, we look much more fabulous than we do in reality. And that is the illusion we are trying to create. If you feel good doing what you're doing, then you imagine you look good. And who am I to break that
Mm.
illusion, huh? You know? So it
Well,
is,
I think, yeah, that's absolutely right, isn't it? Because we're doing our moves, but we're looking at you who can actually do it. And that's how we feel. That's what we feel like we're doing, even if it's not quite the same. So yeah, I love that you turn your back to the mirrors because there's too much emphasis on how we're looking and it's really how we're feeling that matters the most and keeping moving so crucial for women with the passage of time. So you know what, I could talk to you all day. I could do more of that, honestly, but time is marching on and I'm going to have to call a halt to proceedings. So can I just say thank you so much, Danella, for being such a good sport today? And you know, what you're doing with your TT Fit is fantastic. I'll be keeping my eye on you. I might even be there in one of your online classes. You never know.
I mean, and to all those listeners, this journey through menopause is going to have a lot of plot twists, but see it as an encore. It's not a curtain call. The curtain's not coming down. People want more. So, yeah, get the right soundtrack and, yeah, navigate it that way. Keep moving.
The world's your oyster, isn't it? Well, thank you again.
Thank
It's
you.
wonderful to meet you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll say cheerio for now, people.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Oh my gosh.